Good. So yeah, go ahead.
Thanks for the introduction, Nima. So I'm actually here to talk to you guys more about this event that the Competitive Programming Club of the University of Calgary is actually holding not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. So it's March 5th. And it's just basically a competitive programming contest. And I don't know if many of you guys have actually done competitive programming contests before or know of it. But what it basically is that you're just giving a question, and then you take in inputs, and then based on what the question asks you to do, you're just supposed to kind of print or output the stuff that they want you to do. That's kind of like a brief little introduction of what they are. And I guess some of the really interesting things about this event is that we have two divisions. Division one is the harder division. It's for, I guess, upper year undergraduate students and people who actually have kind of done a lot of competitive programming contests before. And division two is for people who have no university courses under their belt at all, basically. So that's the one that I'm hoping to get all of you guys in high school, I guess, to hopefully join this March 5th. And the contest goes from 10 a.m. to 6:30. And I'll post this link right here, which has all the information that you basically need. And another very, very fun thing about this event is that you could either join in, what's it called? So if I actually open up the Eventbrite, you could either join individually if you don't have any, I guess, like people that are willing to do it with you, or you could actually come in with your friends and then try to I guess compete into this contest with them. And we of course have prizes. That's the, I guess, the biggest draw, as well as if you're actually trying to get your hands on, or if you're trying to like get a feel of what computer science is basically about. Most of these questions are basically interview questions. I don't know if you guys have heard about all these big tech companies. They actually have these very, very technical questions that they have before they actually recruit you to those companies. And these questions are basically like that, especially the Division 1 questions. But of course, the Division 2 are a great way to start to get into these kind of interview questions. And you could absolutely sign in as an individual, as I said. So on the Eventbrite, you just have to either sign in as an individual or as a team member. And that's basically a choice, I guess, if you have people that you want to compete with or not. And the competition actually goes from, what's it called? So it goes from 10:15 until 6:20. And there are some prizes that are going to be kind of in this competition just for, and what's it called? The sign up is of course for free. It's March 5th, not this Saturday, next Saturday. So not this upcoming one, the one after that. And it's held by Synopsys. So the partnership is actually held by Synopsys. And Synopsys is one of the S&P 500 companies. So it's a very big and well-known tech company. And if, I guess if you win, you could always get your name heard by them, and they could, of course, like recruit you or anything like that. So a lot of people have actually gotten recruited into many of these big tech companies that sponsor these events. And maybe you could be next, I guess. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you guys so much. And I'll toss it back to Nemo. If you guys have any questions, just send them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them.
Okay, so thank you, Abud, for the information. So if you guys have any question or if you're interested, you can ask Abud in the chat, and he's going definitely like to answer you guys or get back to you. So let's get started with our session. I'm going to share my screen right now. And let's see. Okay, perfect. So now I think you should be able to see my screen. So now on the left, I'm going to talk about the slides, and then on the right, you can see the code. I hope that everyone by now can have access to the Ignite Ironite platform. We are going to do a quick review. So let's get started. So first of all, this is just a really important thing. So make sure that you have like the import Spark and the precision reload _x space Spark in the first cell. And whenever you want to run your program, it is important to have like the percentage ignite command in the first line of your cell, right? So as I said before, we are going to talk about two functions here. So one of them is def setup. So here we're going to talk about like writing itself to set things, and then we have like def draw, which run the program and like running it again and again until we push the stop button. So if you want like to do, remember this sharp sign is the command, is a comment. So I can say this is comment and it will be ignored ignored by computer. It doesn't understand it, right? So let's move on. Again, you only need this for the first cell, but you need this present image whenever you want to run your program, write something, right? And then we'll talk about like how to save the notebook file and how to download it. So I talked about it before, but quickly I'm just going to go through it. So if you are here in the notebook, you can just click on File. So let me show the left sidebar here for you. So you can just here, for example, say, okay, I'm going to save it. So I'm going just to say save as, right? Let's say this is saved as, right? And that's it. And then you'll have a new file here, saved as, and then I'm going to download it here. Let's see. I think I have to make it a little bit bigger. So you have that one. This is saved as one. So you can download it here, right? And whenever you want to open it, you just drag it and then put it there. So I'm going just to do it here quickly for you guys. So for example, let's say I change it to my name, Nima 5. And then I'm just going to drag it and then put it there. That's it. You see, it's Nima 5. And then you can just open it. That's it. So I'm going just to put it back there. Okay, I think that you're good. I'm going just to get rid of this bar because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to get rid of this one. And we're going to talk about this cell here. Perfect. So I'm going just to skip this file because I already talked about that. This is just a review on the setup and draw. So again, for the setup, you try to do the setting and set up actually like your environment, like to change the background, change the size of the window. And in the draw function, in the def draw, you're going to run some stuff, right? You're going to create something, and you're going to see how it works as the program run through it again and again. This mouse X, if you put it, for example, here, instead of, for example, the X coordinates of the circle, if you remember, the circle has the center X, Y coordinates and the diameter. So if you put, for example, instead of the number root mouse X, exactly just this word mouse X, the computer understands that it should track your mouse, right? So whenever your mouse is, with respect to the reference of your window, for example, it assumes that as the value for the X, right? But you don't need to worry about that. But this is just how it works. Okay, so let's talk about the variable. So again, we talked about the variable and how they can just store values in different types, like integer, float, and string. Now we're going to talk about, for example, two variables. Let's say I have a equal b here. A equal, for example, 20, b equal 30. And let's say I want to add them, right? Okay, so because this is like the function, so I have to do it in the setup thing. But let's do it here just to help you to understand the concept, and then I will do that setup thing later. So you have like this a plus b here, right? Just in a simple cell, right? Now, if I want to use that a plus b later, let's say this is like the age a plus b, right? Let's say you are 20-year-old, and after 30-year-old, you will get like, after 30 years, you will get 50, right? Now, if you want to use that age, you have to store it in a new variable. So that's why I say a plus b from the right goes to age, or in other words, I'm going to set age, the word age, or the variable age, to the summation of a and b. So now I can say, if I print age, now I have the age, right? But if I, for example, let's say I want to say this is age 2, and let's say, age new, and if I want to print it, I should get an error, right? Because I didn't define age new. So for example, I can say this is my age new, and now the computer understands that this age new has the value of a plus b. Sounds good? Now you can do a lot of stuff. You can do summation, you can do subtraction, you can do division, but be careful that you cannot divided by 0, because if you divide by 0, you will get error, right? Because you cannot divide something by 0. Just a quick tip for you guys. You can think about in Python 3, which is like the current version in Python. There's a difference between 4 divided by 2 or 5 divided by 2, right? Which should give you 25 and 5 /2, right? These two. This is just the quotient, right? But the one single slash gives you the exact value of the division. Okay, so let's move on. Now, one of the questions that you may ask is, well, why should we use a variable? Well, the idea is that you want to use that variable again and again in the future, right? So let's say you want to store a variable, store a value in a variable, and you want to reuse that value, or you want to update that value later, right? You want to track like the value, right? As you change the value or as you update the value. So that's one of the benefits of the variable. The other thing is that maybe you want to use it a lot. So let's say you have like a like your age is 20 and you want to write a program and you want to use it 10 times, right? It might be a little bit confusing for a reader to just see 20, 20, 20, right? So instead, you are going just to set age to 20, and then you're going to reuse that variable age. So whenever the reader sees the word age, right, he knows that like that is like the age of like the person. So he knows that it's 20. The other thing that you need to know for the variable is how to set the name. So we'll talk about that shortly. But before, let's talk about some sort of examples. Probably most of you guys play the game, right? So in the game, you might see like the health bar, you might see like some sort of like the money that you get in the game. Those are all variables. For example, the health is some sort of like a variable that tracks the health of the player, right? So for example, if you are at like the 50% of your health, and if, for example, someone, I don't know, like hit you, like your health point will be reduced, right? But your current state of your health is 50%, right? Not 100%. So you are going to update the health and you're going to keep track of the changes. And you want to like make sure that you have like the current state, right? So that's like one of like the advantage of like having variables. So there are some rules for like naming a variable, right? So first of all, you shouldn't include any spaces in the variable. The other thing is that the first letter should be from A to Z, right? Or any underscore, like one underscore character, right? So for example, you can say I have a book, right? Oops. Yeah, because it says a book is not defined, of course, because this is just a variable. I have to set it to something, right? Let's say let's call it Harry Potter, right? Okay, so a book is Harry Potter. So if I print it, so it is Harry Potter, right? So this is just a name, right? I use a or underscore and some other letters. By the way, we are talking about just the first character for now. So the first character should be A to Z and the underscore. And we shouldn't consider like any keyword. So the keyword is something that is understood by Python. So for example, the Python understands print, right? You don't need to define print for the Python. The Python understands that the print is a keyword because whenever you use the print, it's going to print something on the screen. So it is not a good idea to say print is Harry Potter, right? Right? So better to not do that. And Python and most of like the programming languages and Python, of course, they are case sensitive. So you cannot say, for example, if I say, for example, my age is 20, and I say print age, that doesn't work because this is the small letter, this is the capital letter. The Python understands the difference. So it assigns two different memory for two different like names, considering like the whether it is capital or a small letter. So be careful of that. So if you run it, you will get error because name age is not defined, right? So now you can see the difference. The other thing that you need to know is that whenever you want to create a name for your variable, it is better to make sure that the name makes some sort of sense, right? It is just, it is not necessary, but it helps you to get better in the future when you want to do programming, you don't want to create some sort of weird names, right? I can say my age is 20 and then say, okay, after 5 years, I will get 25, right? I can use any other variable, any other name instead of age. I can say, I do not care, right? About the name, right? And then so I do not care plus, right? But that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, I do not care is like not a good name, right? I'm just I'm just trying to create like an extreme example. But my point here is that if you want to create a name, think about it. Just think about it for a while and make sure that your name makes sense in the context of your program, in your problem, right? So let's move on. This is a quick question 1. So we are going to have a poll, but I think that I forgot about something. I think we're going to have, okay, so let's do this poll first. Now 6, okay. D squared, D25, D25. Okay. Okay, we're almost done. About 62% answered the question. Okay.
I close the poll.
Okay, perfect. So for those guys who just answered like the first 2 options, like D squared or D times 0.25, notice that the D is probably a variable that is set, right? So if you use these 2 options, right? And like, for example, the option 1 is okay. It has mouse X that change like the X, Y coordinates of the center based on the like the mouse, but the problem here is with the diameter, right? The diameter is fixed. We want to make sure that the diameter is somehow related to the coordinates, because as you change the coordinates, right, you can see the diameter changes. So the answer should be probably option 3 or 4. But the difference between 3 and 4 here is that in option 3, we're changing based on the coordinates of X. On option 4, we're changing based on the coordinates of Y. So the correct answer is option 3. So let's move on. I'm going just to close it and then move on. I can just do a quick thing here for you guys, so if you want like to check it out. I write it already here for myself, but I'm going just to show it here for you. So this is just a circle, the mouse X times 0.25. Right? If I run it, right, you can see that there's a change, right? But this number, this 0.25 can be 0.5 or whatever. But the idea is that like the changes is based on like the coordinates of the X. Perfect. So I'm going to stop it and then I'm going to move on to the next slide. Okay. So now we're talking about like updating a variable with itself. So let's see how it works. So let's say you have a variable height, right? And it is 170. And let's say after like 1 year, like you grow 5 centimeters, right? So now it becomes height plus 5. You don't need to create a new variable, like a new name, right? You can use the same variable and update it. So what's happening here is that you're saying that my height is equal height plus 5. And what's happening here is that you're saying that my height is set to the height plus 5. So whenever you see like some sort of like the assign, the computer somehow understands it. So it's going to calculate like the height plus 5 on the right, and assign it or put it into the variable height. So the variable height is going to have the new value of the height. So I'm going to show it here on the right. So let's say I have the age 20, and after 1 year, my age is going to be 21, right? And that's it. So you can see how it works, right? So you have age plus 1 and age, and then you have the point to point age again. Okay. By the way, this is just a way to show that like, we can update the variable, right? You can also change it, right? So let's say you have age 20, and then you are going to write some stuff. Let's say I'm going to do some stuff here. And then later, I decided to use a new value for the same variable, right? I can say, okay, my value is now going to change to 22, right? So if I print age now, since the computer runs it line after like it considers like the order of like the line for the expression. So first the computer assigns 20 to age, then after some line, it sees age is 22. So now if I print age, the last value that is assigned to age is 22. It's not just 22, right? So it is important that how you put your lines, right, in a cell, right? The order of line matters. So there is also a shortcut for when you want to update a variable. So let's say you want to update it and assign it to itself, like to the same variable. So I can do age is equal age plus 5, right? And put my age to 30, and I will get age 35. But another way is to do this shortcut, something like this. So this is a shortcut that we can say, if you see something like that, like plus equal sign, it means that the age is going to like this age and 5 are going to be added with each other, and then the result is going to be put into the variable age, right? So it's up to you guys. Sometimes you may see this one in the program, like in some sort of like software. Maybe you see like this one, right? And in this session, you may see both of them. Personally speaking, I prefer this one because it is like more readable. But it's up to you guys, right? So I mean that if you are not asked to do it in a particular way, you are free to do it like this or do it like this. Perfect. So now we are going to send you guys to the breakout room to do the exercise 1, which is about creating like 2 black squares on the corner of like this green square, right? And we're going to use like the same X variable, right? So you don't want to use like just number, you want just to store like in a value in a variable and then use that variable. Like using like instead of like the reference point for the rectangle. So Pooja, I think she's going to send you guys to the breakout room. Okay, I think you are good to go, right, Pooja? Perfect. So hello again, everyone. So we are going to continue our session. So let's share my screen. Cool. I'm going to minimize this. And I think that the part 1 is pretty straightforward. So I'm not going to talk about that today. Well, let's talk about this one, right? So the idea is you want to use a variable and then change that variable to create these squares here, right? The black squares. So you can start, for example, from anywhere. You can start from the here or here or here, but it's a good idea to start from the bottom or from the top, right? So you can start, for example, from this point as a reference. I'm going to highlight it here, right? So if you are given these values, then you can modify them to get the reference point for the next square, right? So you can, for example, move to right by amount of width, and then move up by amount of height, right? So on the right side, I'm going to show you here a very small code. So I just do it here myself for you guys. So you can see here, you can start, for example, with x is 0, right? It means that you are starting on the left side, but the y is 400, right? But why not 500? Because this is y here, not at the bottom, right? The bottom is 500 with respect to this corner on the window, right? So if I want to give the coordinates of this point, I have to deduct 100. So it is 0 and 400. I have this rectangle. Now after that, I'm going to modify x and y to plot this second rectangle or to create the second rectangle. So I have x 100, like increase by 100 because I'm going to the right, and then I'm going up. So I have like to deduct 100 and so on. And then if you run this code, you will see something like that. I mean, that this is just a complex, but I have like to maximize my window so you can see. Cool. So I'm going to go back, and then we're going to move forward. Now we want to talk about the variable scope. So what is variable scope? Variable scope means that if you want to use a variable, you want to make sure that your variable is defined in that particular scope, right? So we usually have two scopes, local and global. So global is a variable that is defined outside of all functions, right? And if you want to use it, you need to use the word global. We will see shortly how. If you don't use it, the computer doesn't understand that. So we are going just to do a quick example here so you can understand the difference. I'm going just to copy this code snippet. I'm going to put it here for you guys. So whenever you want to do a copy, some problems, I want to get rid of this one as well. So now if I want to print it, you want to just think about like what value will be printed on the screen, right? So you can see the x is 10. I'm going to print x. I'm going to add 5 to it. I'm going to print x again, right? So I should see 10 and then 15. So let's see. 10 and 15, right? This is the blue window. So don't need to worry about this one. This is just this one, black background with blue. Now you have 10 and 15, right? But what if I wanna try to print this x in this function? So in this function, as soon as you create def, with definition of the function, the x here is now considered as local for this function. So the computer cannot understand this x is the same as this x. So now if you run it, you don't see anything, just say 10 and 15, which is just the same as 10 and 15 here, right? Now, for example, if I say x is 3, right? What's happening here is that going to x equals, so it's going to set 3 to x, it's going to print it, and it's going to do it again and again. Because previously we saw that there is an error in the draw, right? It said x is not defined because the x was not defined inside this function, right? But now if I define x and print it, as this draw is a loop, we should see a lot of fruit. Let me see. Okay, you see, there's a lot of fruit because it's just running it again and again, so I have to stop it. Perfect. Okay. Now let's say I want to use this x, I want to define x outside. let's say I call it x 1000, right? And I want to use this x here. How can I do that? If I want to use the same x value here, I have to create global x. Now the computer understands that this global means that take a look at the outside of the function and find the value for the x and use that value, right? So if I want to run this, I have 10 and 15 here because these are based on the global value, not this value. But as soon as I get to this line, the global says, okay, so use that global value. So now I have a lot of this 1000. I have to stop it, right? I can do the same thing here. I can say, let's forget about it. I can just say, I have global x and then print x, right? Now 1000. But if I comment it, which means that the computer ignores this, right? And I have x 1000. I have print x here. Oops. Okay, I think that because it's already know the x here. So I'm going just to change it to y so the computer doesn't understand it because it's already in the memory. What is here? Let me see. Oh, okay. So, okay. So I think because I should get an error, let me see here, because I think that there is a difference here between draw and this one. Let me try here. Very interesting. Let me try something else. I'm going to print PV here. And let's see if it can understand it. Yeah, I have no idea. Okay, now it says the name y is not different. Of course, it's not different because I didn't test it here. Okay, I'm going to do this. That's interesting. I didn't know why it is working, but it shouldn't be working. Okay, I have to think about it and then get back to you guys. But for now, let's focus on this part that you just need to use the global if you want to use this value, which is defined outside of the function. But I need to consider this. Check it out later. So this is the comments for myself. Okay, so you don't need to do it on your own. But this is just for me. Okay. So here, this is just a simple example that we create like the value outside the function, and then we're going to use the global here. So the computer understands that it needs to use the value that is assigned to this variable x outside of the function here. And then we can just use x as any other x, right? So this is just a simple code. You can use any other thing you want with x. So we're going to have a quick question too. Does the following code work as expected and make the circle move to the right? Why or not? Okay, so we're going to have a quick pull here. And the idea is we want like to, yeah, okay. So here's a pull. So think about the last part, which is the field circle x 150, right? And here is the x plus equals 1.
I'll close the poll in around 20 seconds.
Okay, so we are done. So let's see. So it says yes, the variable x is created inside. You can make the full move. Yes, variable x is the global variable. No, the raw function does not recognize the variable created. No, variable x will be created. Yes, so the correct answer is the last one, right? Because the draw function is going to run again and again, right? So whenever it runs, at the beginning of the line, it says x is equal to 10, right? So it forgets about any other value that is used for the x, and it sets the 10. This is sets the variable x to 10, right? So in the beginning of each loop or each iteration for the draw, it's going to set x to 10 and going to increase it by 1, right? So it's not going to move it again and again to by 1. It's just going to move it by 1 from the position x equals 10 and then do it again and again. Like it is not moving to the right. So let me copy it and then show it here. I'm going to do it here. Now, if I draw this, okay, so let me do the setup first. Setup. Again, let's do the size 500, 500, right? And then it's just at a 10, and then move, let's say move it to do it 50 and move it by 30. So you cannot see anything because you just set x to 50 and then at the same time goes to 30. Like at it 32 it's from 80, and then in the second iteration it's going to put set x again to 50 again, right? But if I want to move it, I can do it here, right? And then I can say global x, right? And then I can see soon, but it's just, I have like to make a condition to make sure it's not leaving the screen. But you can see the change here. The change here is that you set the x to 50 outside of the function, then you use the word global to help the computer understand that, hey, use that x, which is defined outside of the 50, right? Outside of the function. So whenever this function is going to be run again and again, the first one, it has the 50, right? X equals 50. Then the third is going to be added to it, so it becomes 80. But since I already defined x as the global here, so the 8 is going to be set here. So think of it as the x is updated to 80. So in the second iteration, you already have x 80, not 50 again. And then this new value is going to be added to 30 to give you the new value for x. So that's why you can see the x coordinates of the center is moving to the right. Okay. So we can also use variables to change other values, right? So for example, you already see that, for example, in the previous example. And let me see if I can have it, or I don't have it here. So if you remember, we have something like that. This is just a simple example, right? Right, you use these two variables to change the variable d, right? Maybe you have d equals 0, for example. Then you print d here. D is d. Don't forget about the f here. And then you have here d is now d. Right? It was 0, now it's 5. So you're using just other variables to change the variable d. This is just a simple example. So now here's just another example that you want, for example, to move x to the right, but you want to give something, you have some sort of control on the speed of the movement, right? Whether you want to go fast like on the right, or you want to move it slower, right? Like the figure on the left. So you can control it by the variable speed. You don't need to change it manually. So just use the variable speed and then change the variable speed. So I have here speed equals 3. So I know that every time my x is going to be added by that, and then I have like the speed equals 5, right? So let's see. I'm going just to copy it here. And then I'm going to use it here. It doesn't copy, but I have to write it myself. So I have speed equals 3. Then I have x plus speed here. Now I have the circle of x 250, 50, right? So what's happening here is that it knows that x is global right here. So it's going to update that x and it's going to move it from left to right, right? Oops, this is not because it's circle. We can see it says name circle is not defined. So now it's moving from left to right. Now I can make it a lot faster, like do 10. Now it's going fast, right? But if I don't define this global x and define x here, now you can see the difference. Now it's going to update x. It's not going to update x again. Whenever it like it starts running the graph, it always set x equal to 50 and then add speed to it. So you cannot just see the change because it just set again and again to 50 again. So because that's why you can't see anything. So I have to make sure that the x is here and define it as global to make sure that it is going to be updated globally. Okay, I'm going to stop it. And then I'm going to move next. So here's another example, right? So we do it just from left to right. We can do it from top to bottom, right? So you can see that here, for example, we're adding like a speed to the y, right? And then we are going to increment the value of the speed by 1, which means that after the program runs and then after we update the value y, the speed is going to be increased. So not only we are increasing the value of the y, we're also increasing the value of the speed, because as you go down, your ball should move faster. Does that make sense? If you have any questions, just let us know in the chat, because here, the difference here is that in the previous one, we have this speed like 10 was fixed, right? But you can say my speed is 10 or 5, whatever, right? And you can also define global speed, right? Here you can say, okay, so I have like a fixed x, for example, let's say my x is exactly in the middle. My y is, let's say, not 0, but let's say it's, yeah, it's like 0, not 0, but let's say 50 maybe, right? And then your dimension is also 50. And then I don't want this because this is a fix, right? I want this to change. So I can start with y, right? And then I can say my y is 50, a fixed value in the beginning, but now I'm going to change it. Now also I'm going to change my speed as well, right? What's happening here is that you're saying that I use a fixed value for x, which means that the center of the circle is x coordinate is going to be x, but it's y, which determines like where the ball is on the y-axis is going to be changed, right? So you are having the y here, the geometry is fixed, and then if you run it, local variable y reference for assignments. Oh, this is global x. I have to choose a global y, right? Okay. So now you can see it's moving from top to bottom. I can use 2 here to do the slow, and then it's going too fast. You can also change the color, right? So you can use the same concept of changing the variable, but use that variable for the color. So here we have the exercise 2. that we're going to do the same thing, but not just horizontally or vertically. We're going to do it diagonally. So you're going to move it from top left to bottom right, and you can also change the color if you want. Okay, so Pooja is going to send you to the recording. Let's see if you have it. Also, I think that we have everyone here. Okay, I'm going just to share my screen with you guys. So I'm going just to copy my answer here, if I can find it. Okay, I'm going just to do it here. Okay, so first of all, let me just do a quick thing, like talk about like that problem that we had before, not a problem, but like when we define like the x outside of the function and then we use it inside the function and the computer understand it. And the reason is that in Python, whenever you don't define any new variable with the same name inside the function, it refers to the variable which is defined already outside of the function, right? But if you define a new variable but with the same name inside the function, the priority is with that local variable. So if you define a local variable inside the function, and then the computer doesn't go and use that global variable anymore. But if you want to force the computer to use that global variable, then you have to use the word or the command global here. Okay, so now let's do a quick check on this exercise. So again, this is just up to you guys about the name of the variable. You can name it anything, right? You can do expose, you can say x position, y position, right? We can just say x and y, right? So this is just a simple like name. And the reason that we are defining them outside because we want to update these two variables again and again. Because if you put these two variables here, then what's happening here is that we're going to face the same problem that we faced before. And so if we do it here, then whenever you want to run this drop function iteratively, it sets the value of 0. It's just the variable x equals to 0 and y equals to 0 again and again, right? So it's going just to stay here, right? It's not going to move. So we have to define it here, right? And then we can also use the color, like the value for the color again outside the function. Because what's happening here is that you want to update the colors iteratively, right? And you want to update it globally, not just locally, right? And then that's it. So you're just going to call a global and call all the variables, right? All of it. So all these four, these two, and these two, and I make them global, right? And then you can set the background to like a particular color because this is like the background, but you can just put it here, it doesn't matter. And then you do the field side. This is what the color of your circle would be, right? And then I'm going to use this particular value for the red and blue, like a variable, and then I'm going to update it here, right? And then I'm going to update the position of the x and y here, right? So don't forget that the 0, 0, which is here, is the top left, and the bottom is, for example, x 400 and y 500 on the top, bottom right. So I need to increase both of them, right? To make sure that the ball is moving diagonally. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so now it is just some features of this like the circle, that rectangle that we have, like these functions. We can have like other functions like the text size, like the text, right? That can create the text. And for example, for the circle, we have circle and then we have fill style that change the color, right? Here you have the text and then you have two property, the text size and the text align, right? So let me just quickly just show how it works. So I'm just going to erase this stuff here. And then I can say, okay, I'm going just to need just text size 20, text align left, and then text hello, right? So this is a little bit small, but this is good. But maybe I just do it like 100, 100, just to see how it is like right in the middle of things, right here, right? So this is just X and Y. Then you have the alignment, then you have the size. You can make it bigger, right? So this is just another like tool that you can use to create text. You'll also have the line, but the line is the same as the shape, like the circle or rectangle that you had before. It only has like the line and like, for example, the type of the line. So this is just, and I think that you should all be familiar with the concept of the line. So for line, we need 2 points, right? So if you have 2 points, you can have the line. So for these 2 points, we need the coordinates X and Y for each end. So now you can see 4 numbers, right? It's exactly as XY at 1 point, and then you have the XY of another point. So this is just 2 ends of the line. And then you can like have it here, or you can have any other place, right? I can just put it as 0 and 0, and put the other one as 400 and 500. So now I'm creating a diagonal of this window size, right? That's it. Okay. So now we saw before that you can move like the circle by creating the variable and define them globally and then change them inside the function, right? So we can do the same thing for the text, right? So instead of circle or rectangle, we can just create text and move it, right? So the concept is the same. The difference here is that you're just using like the a tool a text to create a text instead of like the shape, right? And here you are changing the size, which means that you have to define the size outside of the function, right? And make it global. And then call it inside the function and then update it again and again. Right? So again, we are just talking about like the same concept again. So here, for example, the problem is you have like a circle, right? And you want to like change its color. So it's similar to the exercise that we did here, right? So here you have like a particular color in the beginning, and you change its color to another color, to blue, right? By reducing the amount of red and increasing the amount of blue, right? So here we have like the same concept, right? So for example, we can fix the value for the R and B. Remember, it's RGB. So you, for example, you can fix the value for the R and B, and you can make the green as a variable, right? So you can increase the green by 1, right? So you can, for example, set green to 0 or to 50 or 100, and then try to increase it gradually. So you can see a change of color. Okay, so now we're going to talk about like the exercises, like the final exercises. This is like one for Blockbusters. Then we have for Patang Lava. So Pooja is going to send you guys to the room, breakout room, and then you can come back and we can just end the session with you guys. So see you soon. Okay, I think we're good to go. So, hello again. So I think that you all have had a good time in your breakout session. So I'm going just to share my screen just to end the session, talking about like the exercises. So if you didn't get a chance to finish your exercises, that's okay, right? So think about it during the week. Then again, do not limit yourself to the exercises, even if, for example, you do this just for fun. If you have some idea, if you can, for example, change the whatever like thing that you want, try to be creative and just not just for like getting points, of course, but just to do practice, right? And to understand how the programming, like the computer works and like how you can play with the program. So we are going to have a quick poll at the end of the session. So Pooja is going to create a poll for you guys so you can share your feedback with us about the content, about how things is working for you guys. So one of the students asked me if they can leave the meeting. I think we can leave the meeting. I mean, that if you share your feedback and if you have to leave, just and have a good weekend, by the way. So I think that we're almost. Thank you, guys. So so you can see this is some sort of normal distribution. So nobody selected like too easy option. So maybe we should like do some sort of like balance the content, right? Because some of you guys said it was just right, some said it was difficult. So we definitely share your thoughts with the core team, and then they can definitely think about it and then how they can refine the materials for you guys. So thank you so much. I think that, yeah, I think that we're almost done. Okay, we're done. So thank you guys for the feedback. So you can just feel free to leave. Pooja, do you want to say anything to the students? Very
No,
good.
thank
Okay,
you
great.
everyone.
Okay, so thank you everyone and have a great weekend. Pooja, do you have the result of this poll on your end, or do you want me to take a screenshot or something?
I'll have a CSV file with all the results.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to stay here for the debriefing.